Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Fly Like an Eagle podcast, a special 1 p.m. edition. Here with Scott Bolden, I am Kyle Mager. We're here to bring you our predictions on the Philadelphia Eagles schedule of 2024 and ultimately what's going to happen, win-loss, what's it going to be. And let's get it going. So this show is going to be about an hour 10, depending on how much we stretch out this schedule. And we have a little bit more to talk about. But we're going to try to make it fast-paced for you guys so you guys are tuned in pretty much the whole time. And without further ado, how you doing, Scotty?
I'm doing good, Kyle. Obviously, it was a huge week with the schedule release. A lot of people, they think the schedule release is like a Christmas day. It's kind of wild how much media coverage it gets from ESPN, NFL Network. It's I think it's 2 or 3 hours that they just talk about the game, which is pretty cool. I love the schedule release, and obviously, let's get into it. Obviously, we're going to start with the Eagles. We're going to go game by game, but we're going to, center it around our predictions. What is our easiest game? What's our toughest opponent? So I guess before we break it down, what is the number one thing that sticks out to you about this schedule when you first saw it?
Opening up in Brazil for sure. And not only that, I would say opening up in Brazil, losing a home game, and the Dallas Cowboys and Philadelphia Eagles not being on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, we are going to talk about that a little bit later, the Cowboys and Eagles not being on primetime. I do agree about Brazil. Overall, I think this is a pretty manageable schedule. Nothing that I really hate. Obviously, you could say the return to 1 o'clock games. We have a lot more 1 o'clock games than we had last year. We had 1 or 2 the whole season.
Yep.
The biggest thing that I don't like, okay, being negative, is we have 2 home games until week 9.
Yeah.
Because the Packers is again considered home, but that's in Brazil. Then you have we're gonna go through the whole thing, but they have two actual games at the link.
Yeah.
From weeks 1 to 8. That's kind of wild.
Well, a lot of people are upset over the week 5 bye, and this is one thing I'll never understand about that. You have to balance everything out. And the fact that we have the schedule that we do, of just skimming through the schedule, I feel like there are 13 wins there easily, but we'll go through each game. You have to balance everything out if you're the schedule makers, because having a week 5 bye actually balances out the easy part of the schedule, because you have a bye earlier than everyone else when you're playing weaker opponents, where it wouldn't be fair if you're playing weaker opponents and having a bye, let's just say week 11, week 12, then you're really going to cakewalk to the Super Bowl if you're a good team. So there kind of had to be a shift there with the schedule makers and kind of make it even across the league. And I understand why they put the bye in week 5.
I have another point. Maybe they did the bye that early because they're on the road so much, and they went to Brazil. Then they're going to be, New Orleans, Tampa. So that could make sense too. It's you've already traveled a decent amount of miles. Obviously, just going to frickin' Brazil is enough. But so that could be some thought behind it too.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
All right, well, let's get into it. Obviously, this is the first game that we knew about months ago. The Brazil game, the opponent, the Green Bay Packers, was announced a month later. This game's on a Friday, which I don't even know. It might be the first Friday night game. I know they did the Black Friday game last year. They're doing it this year, but this might be the first Friday game in a long time, which is kind of cool. It's going to be a little bit different because we're not going to see the Eagles on opening Sunday.
Well, we're going to see them on Peacock too.
Yeah, the streaming, I don't really care about the streaming. Now I subscribe, I have Comcast Xfinity, so I get Peacock for free. Mm-hmm. And it's cool that you can watch it on your phone wherever you are. What is your thoughts on that? Because obviously there is streaming games this year, and look at Netflix and Christmas. We can talk about that later. But
everyone thinks that Roger Goodell is an evil villain, which he clearly is, and they're not wrong about that. But you can't say he's a bad commissioner because he's doing what's best for the league and he's catching eyes across the world. If you put it on Netflix, everyone around the world can get Netflix. So you're just expanding your brand even more. And of course, you're gonna have to pay a premium. Or you're gonna have to pay another charge to get Netflix if you don't have it, just to watch two games. But yeah, this was inevitable. Going to streaming service, you're eventually going to want to get it on all the platforms just to make your brand go global and just put it across the world, not just in one country. So I
Yeah, and
completely understand.
most people, I guess we're not going to get into like, classes here, but I would say most middle class, like you're familiar with streaming, you have at least one
Yeah.
streaming network. And if you can't afford it, then you're going to have to decide which one you want. If you're a huge football fan and your team is playing on this one, like that's your own decision. But it's
Mhm.
not like these, it's like they're charging pay-per-view. Remember old pay-per-views like UFC wrestling, they were $60 a
Oh, now
game.
they're 84. So
So I mean, yeah, they still do have pay-per-views few and far between, but like imagine if the NFL was charging that for the game, like what
correct.
uproar there would be, right?
Yep.
So
No, I agree.
it's a different way to look at it. All right, so this game's at 8:15 Eastern. I guess that's going to be, obviously earlier in Brazil that day.
hmm
This is going to be a really good game, I think. I'm going to take the Eagles just because I think Jordan Love I mean, obviously he played great in that playoff game against the Cowboys, but on such a big stage in an entire different country that he's probably never even been to, and he's still just getting used to being the starter. Um, I'm gonna take the Eagles just because of experience being in like a primetime spot. And yeah, I think we start the season 1-0.
Is this the game in Rio?
San Polo,
San Paulo. Okay.
yeah.
Paulo time. Okay, I'm looking that up right now.
And
So we're gonna go
I'm gonna keep our records. Let me put this somewhere,
an hour ahead.
and we
So
can
San
keep.
Paulo is an hour ahead of us. So it's 2:09 there. It'll only be an hour. So the
Oh,
way
so
I
is it gonna be 9:15 for them?
it would be 9:15 if it's 8:15 over here. Yes,
That's a little interesting. So they're gonna be playing till like midnight,
for
like
sure.
into midnight. Interesting.
But it's not that hectic when it comes to time. Like when they come back over here, they won't be that jet lagged when it comes to time. But anyway, so you have the Philadelphia Eagles winning this game. I think this game's an absolute toss up. Only reason why is because I feel Jordan Love is going to take that next step into being a starter in this league. He now has the weapons to do so. They just got Josh Jacobs from the Raiders. So I think it's going to add to their arsenal for sure. I think he's going to be a dynamic quarterback. I'm still on the fence with Jalen Hurts. He had one great year and one kind of mediocre year, and one year that was kind of like you don't really know what to make of it because the team collapsed. So I'm looking at Jordan Love. He's more of a pocket passer. He has some wheels when he has to, but all in all, this game is really going to come down to the offensive side of the ball for sure. And are we going to run Saquon Barkley into the ground and just put up points after points after points? Because I don't know how our defense is going to look. And Green Bay's defense, I'll tell you right now, is probably better than ours. I
Well,
don't know.
especially early on with our defense,
Yes.
like
It's a real coin flip, this one, because it's the first week of the year. You're not going to play the starters in the preseason. We both know that. And rust will be a factor. So I hate to do this. I'm going to give the Green Bay Packers the win in this game.
all right. So you have the Birds starting 0-1. Like I said, I'm going to keep track
Yep.
of you and me. I have them starting 1-0. You have 0-1. Moving on. So honestly, they get a little bit of a break, but they're going to open their home openers against the Atlanta Falcons Monday Night Football, September 16th.
Mhm.
Now, obviously, we know the Falcons are kind of being hyped up, especially because they got so many primetime games, signing Kirk Cousins in the offseason, drafting their new bench rookie, who knows what quarterback in the
Michael
top
Penix.
10. Now, it's something interesting. This will be the third straight season in a row that the Eagles face Kirk Cousins in week 2. And I think they've all been primetime games. We were at that one in 2022, if you
Mhm.
remember. That was a Thursday night football. Or no,
Yep.
No, that was Monday night, and then last year was Thursday.
Thursday. Yep.
I think history repeats itself. It's still Kirk Cousins. It's still he can't play outside 1 p.m. and win. I think that coming off of a big Brazil win for the Eagles, the fan base is going to be just electrified for the home opener. I mean, they always are, no matter what. But this team is exciting. Like you said, we have Saquon Barkley. We made so many interesting moves in the offseason, new coordinators. Obviously with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith getting paid. I don't know. I'm definitely optimistic. So I'm having them start 2-0. I think they can beat the Falcons.
Okay. So I have them coming home Monday Night Football. Like you said, Kirk Cousins is absolutely disastrous in primetime games. I have them coming back to the link and absolutely kicking the dog shit out of the Atlanta Falcons. I think it's going to be like a 35-21 type of game. And they go 1-1 on the year. I think they're going to be really pissed off from their loss in Brazil, and they're going to come home firing, start 1-1 this season, and it's going to shift their momentum for the season after that. Everyone thinks after week 1, after we do lose to the Green Bay Packers, that the season is going to be rough, and that's not going to be the case. It's just going to get easy. Yep.
No, I like that. Let's go. I love that. Now, I think we should group the next 2 games together because they're both away games. They're both versus NFC South teams. They're both versus teams that we traditionally struggle with. So this is dicey. I mean, I think we both agree they're probably gonna lose one of these games. Hopefully not both. I'm not gonna. So they go to the Saints at the Superdome. Then they go to Tampa, trying to revenge their playoff loss, that awful blowout against Baker Mayfield. And again, I think it's the 4th time in a row that they play the Bucs away, which is weird. I don't know how that shakes out or what the logistics are behind that. For me, I mean, I'm gonna say, since I am starting 2-0, I'm gonna say they lose to the Saints and then they get revenge against the Bucs, because the way we beat the Bucs last year early on, we dominated them. So we probably would have done it again if we were actually any resemblance of a football team last year. Now, I do believe the Saints are still starting Derek Carr. And, obviously he's just an average quarterback at this point, maybe even below average.
Yeah.
But we just never play well in the Superdome. When's the last time we won in the Superdome? Do you remember?
Last time we won in the Superdome was a long time ago. Hold on. I'll look it up.
So I'm going to say lose to the Saints, beat the Bucs. So that's 3-1 for me.
Have the Saints ever beat the Eagles? That's what popped up first. So no, I'm trying to find it. Last win in the Superdome. Last win.
Oh, fun. You have to type in Eagles Saints rivalry. It'll come up.
Wait, here we go. So the last time they won in the Superdome was. It looks like it's very rare because it's not coming up. All right, you look it up. I'll give my prediction. So I don't know when the last time we won the Superdome.
It was all right. They won. No, they didn't. I'll have to find it. You give me your thoughts.
So the last time they won the Super Bowl, the last time they won in the Superdome was non-existent. That's going to change this year. We're going to win in the Superdome. I'm planning on going on to this game. I've never been to New Orleans. It looks fun. It's going to be a great trip in my opinion. And we don't lose when I go on trips. We just don't. So I have us beating them. We're not going to lose to Derek Carr. Like, come on. Their backup quarterback, Spencer Rattler, who fell to the 4th round. So if Derek Carr gets hurt, Spencer Rattler is not going to beat us. They have 30-year-old Alvin Kamara, whose knees are on his last leg. They have Michael Thomas, who's always injured. They have Chris Olave, who I like from Ohio State, and he's a pretty good wide receiver. But this isn't a game where I'm looking at the schedule just because the Superdome is tough to play in that we're going to lose. I think this is a win.
All right, now what about the Bucs? Because you think they lose to the Bucs again then?
No, I think they get their revenge.
Do you really think they're going to win both of these games back to back?
Yes, I do. I think last year the Bucks beating us was basically an example of our team falling apart and us going into there with no momentum. The Bucks play in perfect weather. Baker Mayfield's not going to beat us again. We're going to come after him at all angles. We're going to come swinging, and I feel like we start the season. What is that now? 4-1, 3-1. Yeah, I have been starting 3-1.
Well, so you think that they're going to win back-to-back
Yep,
road
I do.
games in those
Mhm.
places?
Yep.
Interesting. Very interesting. So yeah, I feel like a dumbass right now because I can't find that Saints Eagles thing, and I'm usually good at that. So I'm going to come
But you
back to
probably
that at
haven't
the end of
won
the
there
show.
in such a long time. Like usually, I
Well, it's
remember
giving
that
me the
stuff off the top of my head.
Saints results and not the Eagles.
Hold on,
I mean,
Saints
let's think
versus
back.
Eagles
All three
all-time
playoff
record.
games, 2006, 2006, 13, and 18 were all losses. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Wait,
So then
hold
we
on.
have that week 5 bye.
I got it right here. Hold on. Unlock 2 times 8. Doesn't make any
We're
sense.
spending way too much time with this.
We're spending a lot of time. Yeah, 2007. It looks like
Wow.
a long time
So
ago.
that's longer than our losing record against the Seahawks. Thank God we don't play them
Yep.
this year because we can't beat them for shit. Like
Nope.
it's actually weird because I think the
Yep.
Seahawks last time we beat them was 2008. I'm pretty sure that
Unless that
sounds
just
about right.
unless that record is fucking with me. Like 2007 seems like a long time ago.
I wouldn't be shocked. I can't think of a game where they won in the Superdome. They definitely beat them at home a few times, but
Yeah, I mean they almost beat him with Nick Foles, but Alshon Jeffrey dropped the ball. So
I know that's one of your top worst games,
top
Eagles
losses.
moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, top losses. All right, so then we have the bye week 5. We kind of already discussed that a little bit. It is odd. I think this is the earliest Eagles bye of our lives. I don't know if you can remember a bye this early, so that's definitely different. We're going to see 2 things that we've never seen, I guess, the bye and then no primetime game with the Cowboys, which we're going to
Right.
discuss in detail a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, 1:00 against the Cleveland Browns at the Link. The Browns are a mystery. You know, they signed Deshaun Watson to that huge, outrageous, abnormal contract. After all of his legal troubles and massage happy endings, unfortunately, and he's never been the same since that. I mean, he took a year off of football. He definitely lost some type of muscle, speed, whatever it is. Just, I mean, it could be his mental health mentally because it's a lot to come back from. I mean, if you're in the public eye for something that negative and weird.
Mm-hmm.
But again, they are still a really good team with Myles Garrett. Like he is a top 5, 7 player in the entire NFL. Their defense is freaking awesome. They won with Joe Flacco last year and made the playoffs. After
Yeah.
Joe Flacco was here, the Jets, he was everywhere, did nothing since he left the Ravens, and somehow he turned into old Joe Flacco again for a couple weeks. That being said, I just don't see. Well, also, didn't their running back get hurt last year?
Yeah, he always gets hurt. Nick Chubb.
I know he's so good. I always have him on my fantasy team. Wait, why can I not think of his name right now?
Nick Chubb.
Nick Chubb. He's a beast. But I just don't see whoever they have playing quarterback being able to escape our pass rush and our improved secondary.
Mm-hmm.
And it's at home. So I'm giving this a win. 4-1 for me.
Yeah, I have this as a win as well. I mean, I'm looking at the roster right now. Nick Chubb, running back. You never know if he's going to be healthy by then. It seems like he always gets hurt. They have Jerry Judy, who has tremendous footwork, but couldn't find his stance, and he couldn't find himself in Denver with Russell Wilson. And their backup's Jameis Winston. They have Amari Cooper, who I like, and they have a top 5 tight end in David Njoku. But us being at home, I think, plays an advantage, especially because the last time we played them, we lost during the COVID season, and Carson Wentz was absolutely abysmal. I was actually at that game. They let like 8,000 fans into the stands. I don't think we lose to them back-to-back times, especially being home. I think we have a better team now, and I think we're going to win this game.
I remember watching that game too. I was actually in North Carolina, Charlotte, but that season it was like every game felt the exact same, and it turned out the exact same way. It was
Yep.
weird. They played the exact same way. They lost the exact same way. They would lose like 22 to 14, 17. It felt like a blowout, but the score wouldn't indicate it, but it was a blowout because they
Correct.
scored at the end or something. So yeah, that was terrible. And again, they lost to Baker Mayfield. They
Yep.
beat Baker Mayfield once again early on last season with the Bucs. So both of us have them starting 4-1. At the New York Giants at MetLife, time to get a little bit of revenge. Obviously, it's Saquon Barkley's return, home game, revenge game at MetLife. This should be an easy win now that we're not, again, an abysmal locker room team, whatever the hell happened last year. Let's just hope everyone gets out unscathed on that terrible turf. So
Yep.
5-1 for me.
Yep. Absolute easy win. Probably the easiest victory of the season. The New York Giants stink. They're bringing back Daniel Jones, which I mean they kind of have to because they paid him all that money, and it was actually a smart move by them by not drafting a quarterback. I'll give them that. But they're an absolute dumpster fire of an organization still. They grabbed a wide receiver, Malik Nabers, who I think is actually pretty good. He's from LSU. But that being said, we have more talent on offense. We have the better coaching. Brian DeBall's a clueless bastard. And they're just not they're not gonna win. They're not gonna win this game. So I start out 5-1.
So is this your easiest game? Because we did mention to say it's our easy. Is that your easiest game? Because I
Yeah,
do
I
have
mean,
the same one.
anytime they face the Giants, it's easy.
Yeah, and again, that week 18 game last year was just terrible. Again, we were just sleepwalking zombies. So I mean, it's hard to judge, and we can't say that it wasn't us, but it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So the Giants, when they beat us, we're literally the shits, and we're in a tailspin, or half our team's hurt, or
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Like
So
we
like
literally have to give them our excuses for them to beat us. It has nothing to do with them being good because they're never good, let's be real. So we have to be bad in order for them to win, and that's exactly what happened in the second game of the year. Even in Christmas, the Christmas game last year when we were horrible, they
it was
still couldn't beat
terrible.
us. They still couldn't beat us.
They almost did, but yeah, I guess that is saying something because we were the worst team in the league almost, besides the
Awful.
Panthers or whatever. So yeah,
Mhm.
that you're right about that. I didn't even think about that.
Yep.
The following week, this is going to be probably one of the most anticipated games. It's the Eagles' first time facing Joe Burrow, correct?
Yep.
Yes. Because they've last faced the Bengals again. They're facing a lot of teams from the 2020 season, the COVID year. It's crazy. That was 4 years ago now. This is at Cincinnati. Obviously, Joe Burrow has a little bit of an injury history. He's probably going to want to come out guns a-blazing. He has a lot to prove probably this season. More like he has to himself. Still, obviously, doesn't have a Super Bowl ring. I think it's going to be hard to win a Super Bowl just because it is the Bengals. I mean, it's the Bengals. They're definitely a great team with him. Even last year, they still finished, what was it, 8-9 or 9-8, whatever.
Yeah.
And the biggest reason I think the Eagles are going to lose is because of Jamar Chase. I think he is the most underrated player in the entire NFL. And I think the Bengals they're due for a really good year, and I think they're going to, run all the way to the AFC Championship, probably against the Chiefs again.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is going to be a loss because it's on the road and you're playing a really good team that you don't see in a while. Also, we know the Eagles do not have a good history against the Bengals either, with those 2 ties in our lifetime and just some ugly games. The Zach Ertz didn't want to block game comes to mind too. So unfortunately, we're not going to switch history here. It's going to be our second loss. Good thing it's against an AFC team. Hurts a little bit less in the standings and the tiebreakers. But yeah, I have Eagles 5-2.
So this will be another panic game from Eagles Nation since we're on such a roll and we're racking up wins. This will be yet again a loss against the Cincinnati Bengals. We have not beat the Cincinnati Bengals in general since 2000. So it's been that long, 24 years since we've beaten the Cincinnati Bengals.
How many times have
And
they played them? They play them every 4 years. You're the
yeah, the
mathematician.
last time they played them was in 2020. That was a tie when we actually took out Joe Burrow for the season. He got injured, and then there was a tie in 2008.
Wait, so they
And
were playing Joe Burrow in that game?
yeah, at first they were playing him.
Okay.
It was his rookie year,
But he
and
got
then they
hurt.
took
He
him
got
out.
hurt early on in the game.
Yeah, he got took out.
That was another weird ass game. That whole season, like I remember they should have won it, and it came down. It went into overtime, obviously, because it was a tie, and they kind of
Mhm.
gave the game away, if I remember correctly, to the Bengals. Or they
Right,
didn't give the game away. It was a tie, but
right.
like they should have won, basically.
And here's the other thing in the three losses 2016, 2012, and 2005, all of the losses were blowouts. They were all 20-point victories. So that's one of the, I'm telling you, this is one of the games where the fan base is going to freak out. They're going to say, oh, we're frauds. The fact of the matter is, not only are the Cincinnati Bengals finally good, we just never win there. We never play this team well, ever.
And
So this may be one of the losses.
there's no real reason for it.
Yeah.
It's just like the Seahawks I mean, at least those make sense at Seattle and at the Superdome.
Yep.
But the Bengals, I mean, they were a terrible franchise, especially they never were terrible. They were just average. They did have Carson Palmer and Andy Dalton, but to not beat them, any of the matchups since 2000, just weird. So we both have the Birds 5-2. A very interesting game the following week, Sunday Night Football, November 3rd. We're in week 9. Jacksonville, Doug Peterson's second trip back to Philly. Obviously, we beat them in 2022, early on in the season. Are you surprised that they made this game Sunday night NBC
Not
or
at all.
no?
Not at
No?
all. Nope.
You think the Doug Peterson factor is going to sell again, maybe because it was at 1 o'clock, so they didn't really get to like milk it, right?
Yeah, it's gonna sell for multiple reasons. Number one, it was at 1 o'clock, and number two, it was rainy, so the fans couldn't really give him a good ovation. Like
Yeah, you're right.
he came back, but I was actually gonna take my dad to this game, and he called me up in the morning and he said, "Listen, it's like pouring cats and dogs out there. I'm not gonna sit in the rain, even if it's front row tickets. I'm not gonna go." And I'm like, okay. So I sold them, and then people picked them up. But Doug came back, and you couldn't really stand up and cheer for him because the whole time you're cold as hell, and you're just trying to keep yourself from shivering. So putting him in prime time, coming back here, I think it's the right move. Yeah.
Now, this would be interesting. I know it won't happen, but I don't think this has ever happened. But what if they inducted Doug Peterson into the Eagles Hall of Fame at
Possible.
halftime?
It's
And I
possible.
think I don't think it's going to happen, but obviously it deserves to happen. But I think in the Eagles' diabolical competitive advantage, not telling anyone's mind, to make this a very emotional game for Tug is I think it's something that they would think up in their factory.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen. I think it would be really cool if they did. And again, to make it emotional for Doug,
Yeah.
obviously that probably would make the players play harder for him, yada, yada, yada. But we've seen time and time again that too much hype, too much emotion is not a good thing. It can backfire. And at the end of the day, I think the Eagles are just a better team than the Jaguars. They're at home. I mean, us at home in prime time, we've been really, really good.
Mhm.
And we used to not be a couple years ago. I mean, yeah, I think I don't know the last time we lost a primetime home game.
It's been a while.
So yeah,
Probably.
16.
Well,
What's
I
up?
know it was close. I remember the Dallas Cowboys versus Eagles game we won to during COVID. That was close. We almost lost to Ben DiNucci.
That was a
But
terrible game.
it was
Oh my God,
awful. It was so
terrible.
bad. But I don't remember a primetime game that we lost recently.
If someone in the comments can remember it, definitely give a shout out. What do we think of Trevor Lawrence?
Mhm.
I think he's a little overrated, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Especially the way last season ended. They gave the division away to the Texans. They lost in a win an in game. So I don't know. I still think Doug is a good head coach. I think that they'll probably go 9-8 again. That sounds about right. I think he's a little overhyped, Trevor Lawrence. I think
I
he's
just like how you
there's
said
so
that. You
much.
were like, I think he's a good head coach. I think they're going to go 9-8 again.
I
I thought
said
that
I
was
said
pretty
I
funny.
said good, not great. Well,
Okay.
like it's hard. It's Jacksonville again. You're going with these teams' histories or
Yeah.
reputation. Jacksonville's never going to be. They're not going to win 12 games 3 seasons in a row. It's
No,
Jacksonville.
it is
You know,
Jacksonville.
for them 9-8 is great. Honestly, 'cause they're used to going 3-13, whatever it
Yeah.
is, 3-14 now.
I
So
mean,
yeah,
the pool that they have in Jacksonville is probably the coolest thing about Jacksonville, if I'm being completely honest
yeah,
with
the pool. I thought it was hot tubs. Where you're right, it's the pool in the stadium. I would love to do that one day.
you. Yeah. I mean, they do have a lemon bar on the shore, but other than that, there's nothing to do there. But yeah,
And
I
what's the
mean,
prediction?
all right. So based off of this comment here, what do I think about Lawrence? I mean, coming out of the draft, he was actually supposed to be one of the best prospects ever,
Since
and he
Andrew
hasn't.
Luck.
He's turned into a good quarterback, but he hasn't turned into anything like we were expecting him to be. So yeah, I think he's a little overrated. I have to agree with Scott, but at the same time, yeah, I would take him over like maybe 15 quarterbacks in this league easily. So it's not like he's bad. Um,
Who would you rather have? Andrew Luck, obviously he's not playing anymore, or Trevor Lawrence? Because I feel like those are the last two quarterbacks
Luck,
that were like built up
Luck,
to be like Andrew Luck.
Luck was a top 5 quarterback.
He carried that team.
Absolutely.
And is this going to be Trevor Lawrence? This is going to be his 4th season, Trevor Lawrence. So it's not like, by year 4, we kind of know what you are.
Mhm.
And 2021, he went 3-14, 22, 9-8, and last year 8-8. Wait, did they get a game? That can't be right. Oh, he was hurt one game, so he
Yeah.
didn't play one game.
Mhm.
So yeah, that equals a career record of 20-30, and that's not good. That's kind of
No,
bad.
it's not. It's not good. I mean, he also doesn't have the greatest pieces around him. His tight end's Evan Ingram, which he's a baller. I
Well, we
thought Evan
just said
Ingram.
Andrew Luck did not either. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
because he wasn't there for
Well,
Oh no, he had Trent Richardson.
yeah, he had Trent Richardson, someone who couldn't read the field. He had T.Y. Hilton, who was actually pretty decent, and he had somebody else I'm forgetting, but he had decent players. He didn't have great players, but he still was a Pro Bowl quarterback for what he had. So
So you have the Eagles
yeah,
winning
Hurts.
here.
If you put Luck on the Philadelphia Eagles squad right now, they'd go undefeated
I think if you put Luck with Doug Peterson and the Jaguars, they win 12 games.
easily.
It's a shame that he had to retire. Obviously, he made the best decision for him.
Yeah, he
And
he was he was beat up.
I know I don't think he was a big. I think he had a flip phone. I think I remember him saying that he's definitely not a social media guy. But
No,
we haven't heard a peep from him, so I hope he's doing okay. I don't
no,
know.
because the idiot fans in Indianapolis, when he retired, they booed him going off the field. So I mean that'll scare anyone away.
And I guess it was probably too hard for him to do like a media TV job, but
Yeah.
he's such an intelligent mind. He's kind of like a big nerd.
Mhm.
Did he play at Harvard or where did he play?
Stanford.
Stanford.
Mhm.
I hope we do see him again one day in some type of capacity. But I mean, he probably has CTE, which we just
Big time.
learned, Kelsey. So the NFL probably doesn't want that look or press or talk
No.
around. If you bring him back, how do you not talk about that? So that's probably the
Correct.
reason. All right, so we both have 6-2. Moving on.
Yep.
The biggest game of the year up to this point, and I feel like up to this point, again, this schedule has been manageable. We're 6-2. You know, our losses again. Mine is to the Saints and Bengals, and your losses are to the Packers and Bengals.
Yep.
This game is going to be on CBS November 10th at 4:25 at AT&T Stadium versus the Dallas Cowboys. Another situation where we have not won in Dallas sense, and people forget about this game for whatever reason. Me and Kyle went to a blowout. I know you went to another blowout, which is just terrible. I don't know why we get blown out by them or we win close. But the last time we won there and we blew them out was 2017 with Carson Wentz, 37-9, which is a very forgettable game, but it was like a really good game. We were losing actually 9-7 at halftime.
Well, when you look back at that, that goes to show you how much of a Super Bowl team we actually had, and we didn't need Carson Wentz to win that Super Bowl because that's how good of a team balance we have. Because you look at all the games we've played in Arlington, we get blown out. Like that team blew them out.
Why do you think that is?
Well, because I think we had the perfect team for that 1 year at every position. I think we had perfect coaching.
So why do we get blown out since then?
It's just it's the part of the rivalry. You know, it's like we go down there and our headspace just isn't there.
You think it's a curse? I think it's a curse because we won the Super Bowl. Now we have to lose to the Cowboys like this, right?
No, I think they treat it as their Super Bowl, and they at the end of the day
as they should.
They do have the talent. You know, they don't have a great running back. Dak Prescott's a really good regular season quarterback. You know, they have CeeDee Lamb, who's one of the best top 5 wide receivers in the game, in my opinion. You know, they have decent weapons other than him. I mean, they're not a bad football team. They just won't win in the playoffs.
Now, I have seen articles that they're like, oh, don't be surprised if the Cowboys sweep the Eagles.
No, it's not going to happen.
No, and I honestly think we're due to sweep them. They're not as good. We just know that. We are going to be better than last year. I think we're going to break one of these curses. You know, can't win at the Superdome. I picked them to not. The Bengals, I'm going to finally pick them to beat the Cowboys at AT&T. This game's on CBS for whatever it's worth. We've had really good recent success winning on that network. I always say these weird superstitions, but sometimes they're a thing. This is going to be a close game. I'm thinking like 27-24. Again, the offense is depleted. They lost offensive linemen. They don't have Tyron Smith anymore. Zeke is their running back. Now watch him be good against us.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's really shot. And the fact that they were trying to hype that up, I mean, it's the equivalent to Deshaun Jackson coming back in 2019.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised if Zeke gets hurt and plays only a couple games for them.
I don't know. Deshaun Jackson started out the season pretty well that game.
I think he only had like 2 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns all year. He was hurt for most of the year.
But in that game he had 2. The first game of the season.
Against the Cowboys?
No, it was against Washington Redskins at the time.
Oh, because he had that touchdown against the Cowboys when we got blown out again by Andy Dalton.
Yep.
But I think we're gonna win. We did beat Dak finally. We've only beaten Dak 2 or 3 times. It's weird. No one we don't want to talk about it. I don't like to talk about it either. But this is we have to beat them. Like, come on. I'm picking us to win 7-2.
Okay. No, I have this as a loss, unfortunately. Yeah, I do. Until they beat them in Dallas, I can't really say, oh, we're going to beat them in Dallas. I mean, I can't. Like, I have to, as much as I despise the Cowboys, like I think everyone does, you have to look at them and realize that they're still a pretty damn good team. And
their defense is really good, and I think their defense is going to be better with Mike Zimmer, and they obviously get their cornerback who got hurt last year. I'm not doing good with names today, but
Diggs,
Trayvon Diggs,
Trayvon Diggs,
he's very good. I still remember him picking off Hurts in that 2021 game. That was
there. Yeah,
I'm done talking about all these. Like, dude, there's like 4 or 5 blowouts. Like, it's crazy. But no, I'm picking them to win. They have to run Saquon. You have 2 of the top receivers in the game. I think the secondary is much improved. I feel like you're down on Mr. Toledo. But C.J. Gardner-Johnson is going to make we were great. Also, when we have a safety, Malcolm Jenkins, Brian Dawkins, even remember we had Corey Graham that played freaking well in the Super Bowl year. He was an old ass player, but I think he had like 2 picks or something. When we have a good safety, this defense is good. Obviously not Malcolm Jenkins some of those years, but you get what I'm saying, right?
But we didn't even beat them when we went to the Super Bowl. Like
What do
Lane
you mean?
Johnson went down
We,
to
we,
Andrew
we beat
Stanley,
them.
and it was a
We
shootout.
beat them in 17. Oh, you mean 2022?
Yeah,
Well, we didn't have Hurts. It was Gardner Minshew.
yeah, but Lane Johnson went down as well. So
Yeah, but we
yeah,
did. We beat them at home
yeah,
on
we
what was
did.
that Sunday night?
Seems like we always beat them at home now. It used to be flip flopped.
All right, so you have us losing this game. Moving on.
Yeah, unfortunately.
A short week. Our first game against the Washington football team, the Commanders. This game's on Prime Video. It's on Thursday. Now, I don't know why we're playing this team. Why is this in prime time? I feel like we always get one of these games against Washington.
It's always a good game.
It's either we usually blow them out. Remember the COVID year when that game got, not the COVID year, 21, when we blew them out. It was like a Wednesday game or something. They played us tough last year. Obviously, Jalen Daniels. It's going to be very interesting to watch. I don't know how good they're going to be. Their team is like brand new. Head coach, defensive coordinator, players, owner, offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury, Dan Quinn. There's so many different styles and people trying to come together. I don't know if that's really going to mesh. I think they have to be better. I don't know. But my biggest takeaway from this is, what do you think about this game being on prime time and not the Cowboys game the week before? Like, I don't know.
I mean, well, technically it is prime time. I mean, it's in a 425 spot on Sunday, which would
Not
be
all right. It's not a night game.
yeah, which would be Fox's America Game of the Week. So it's actually even better than prime time. Actually,
It's actually
well,
no. So it's actually on CBS that game. But yeah, it's going to
okay,
be there. It's going to be their standalone game. Yeah.
gotcha. Yeah, so it's gonna be Romo, so it makes sense.
But yeah, I have the Eagles.
Um,
I have the Eagles winning against Washington at home. I have us at 8-2.
Yeah, I agree. There's not much to talk about there. You know, they always play us tough, but we're at home. We're gonna win.
All right, so you have 7-3, 8-2 going into week 12. So we have back-to-back night games, but we get a 10-day rest from the 14th to the 24th, exactly 10 days. We have to go to LA or Inglewood to play the Rams at SoFi Stadium, 8:20 on NBC. This is definitely a toss-up for me. I have us winning. I had us winning the last 3 games, and we're going to be on a back-to-back. Actually, we're playing 3 out of 4 on the road. Matthew Stafford's a question mark. This team's really a question mark, but we know that they have 2 beastly wide receivers.
Yes.
So I'm going to say, this is tough. This is really tough. I want to give them a loss, but I don't. But I'm going to give them a loss here. Even though I don't know. I'm going to give them a loss, 8-3.
This is the game of the year, in my opinion. I think this
Really?
has, yes, and I agree with Chocolate in the comments. I think it's going to be a shootout. They have Kieran Williams at running back, who's an absolute beast. They have Puka Nacua, wide receiver. They still have Cooper Kupp at wide receiver, and they have Tyler Higbee at tight end. I think they have a dynamic head coach, and we have the offense finally to go back and forth with them. I don't think defense is going to matter much in this game. And what I ultimately think is our offense is better than their offense just by a little bit. And I think that's what correlates into a win.
Wow. That's a big statement by you. I love it.
Yep.
I had to put a loss in there somewhere.
We always win up there.
We do.
Yeah, we won last
year. Last year we only won 20-14. We should have won by a lot more, but we kicked field goals.
Yep. We know why we didn't win by that much. Our team wasn't that good, but we still won.
Yeah, we watched that game together. But I think the Rams are going to be a little bit better than they were last year, and they won a playoff game. So
yep.
Next week is another huge game that we don't see a lot at the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh. This should be a defensive battle. I don't know. When I think of the Ravens, I still don't think of explosion. Obviously, they do. Um, yeah. I mean, how could this is probably the one where you would say it's an like a not an automatic loss. When you're picking this, you're going to say it's a loss. I was tempted to go win. I think it's going to be another close game. But yeah, this is a loss for me just because it's in Baltimore. And we also, again, don't have a good history against the Ravens. So
We never win there. They beat us like the last 5 times. This is a loss. Let's just move on from it.
you have none of these streaks coming to an end of we can't beat these teams there. I mean, I ended the Cowboys.
See, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I agree with you. I think one of them is going to come to an end. I just can't put anything on the line and say one of these games is going to come to an end because number one, you have Cincinnati on the road, never win there. Dallas, maybe that's the most possible one is Dallas. But Baltimore, no way in hell, especially when they just got off of an NFC Championship title game loss. They're going with a vengeance. And as long as Lamar Jackson stays healthy, he's going to be a beast again. So, I mean, you're not going to contain him. It's a loss. It's a loss.
Kyle, our records are tied going into week 14. We both have the Eagles at 8-4. I think we've been fans together watching these games.
Yeah.
Even though we have different opinions, but I think we always end up with the same conclusion. We just take different ways to get there, clearly.
Different, yeah, exactly.
All right, obviously the next week, and we can just speed right through this. I think this is the easiest game of the year. The Carolina Panthers are an absolute dumpster fire between their owner, Bryce Young, kind of being a disappointment. Don't want to write him off yet, but trading Christian McCaffrey for that was a huge mistake. They're the worst team in the league. This should be a very easy win. 9-4.
Yeah, it's a blowout win. This is the type of game where Jalen Hurts gets sapped by the third quarter. But I do think that beating the Giants is easier, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
Next game on Fox, our in-state rival against Pittsburgh, 425. Usually they play this game really early in the season for the past a lot of years. We've had some really great recent success against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is not the team that they were, 10 years ago in the late 2010s with Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell. Ever since those three left, they haven't been the same. Now they're having a quarterback battle between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Did they draft anyone?
They drafted Kenny Pickett and then they gave him to us.
Yeah, they traded, which I don't really agree with. I don't know. They gave up on him way too quick.
Way too quickly. And
that's not Steelers-like. I know that Kevin Colbert retired. They got someone new making the final decision there.
Yep.
And I think Russell Wilson and Justin Fields definitely have a lot of upside. I'm not saying that they're bad quarterbacks, but they're both coming from bad situations, to say the least. And yeah, I think this is a win. I don't know about the Steelers. They usually always end up with Mike Tomlin, 500 or a little bit better, which they'll probably do again. But yeah, Eagles win.
Yeah, I agree. And this is the first streak that I have us breaking, which means you win one, you lose one. You win one, you lose one. Because we won the last one, and then the year before that, we lost in Pittsburgh. So I have this one as a win. Also, a streak that's going to break is our streak against Russell Wilson. We never beat Russell Wilson before. Never. So that's another streak that's going to end. So I have this as a win.
Awesome. Last 3 games, all against division rivals. This is usually how it is for us. Last year it wasn't. Besides, did we play a division rival in week 17? No, I don't think we did.
No, we played Arizona.
We played the Cardinals. Yeah. So we're going back to that, what we're used to. And the Eagles used to A lot of years under Doug Peterson and even Nick Sirianni in 21, the Eagles would be on the brink. They would be like 4-7, then they would run off and beat the whole division and finish 9-7 and make the playoffs. So they're used to being in this position, which is rare for any team to want to play their 3 division rivals back to back to back.
Yep.
Obviously, when 2 of them are Washington and the Giants, that definitely helps.
Right.
They've been so bad for almost 15 years. It's crazy. So the first one of those division gauntlet is at Washington, 1:00. They actually renamed the field Commanders Field. How fucking dumb is that?
Stupid.
That is so.
So
people don't like the name in general. So then you're gonna name the field after that name.
Stupid.
So the Eagles are gonna beat Washington at Commanders Field. They're gonna sweep the Commanders again 2 years in a row, and that brings me to 11-4.
I wonder if them changing the name from Commanders Field would take the beehives away from her.
Think the Commanders are going to like scare them away, or
possible?
And well, did they change the name to try to hide the fact that they're still playing at that shithole FedEx Field? Trying to think that it's a little bit different, but it's not. It's the exact same.
It makes it more intimidating. I mean, who isn't scared of a Commander?
It's almost like, oh, let's go to the Washington game. Did they get a new stadium, Commanders Field? What is this new thing, right?
It's still the same really weird pattern colored stadium.
And why do they not have a sponsor? What?
Because they're a joke. They have the worst parking lot in NFL history. They have one way of getting out of there. It's a dump of a stadium. You have sewage problems. You have railings falling over.
Oh my God, that one video.
It's a horrible
stadium. Is this the only stadium? I know we're getting close to the time here because I do have to. This will be a short show today. Is this the only stadium that doesn't have named after a sponsor? I remember it was Brown Stadium for a while, but that's done.
Yeah.
Why the hell? I need to figure out why. In 2024, FedEx relinquished those rights, and the franchise temporarily applied the team name. Oh, they're still seeking a sponsor. So I can't imagine that they won't have one before the season starts, but that's just weird.
I have to give them credit, though, because I kind of like when a stadium's named after a team, like Yankee Stadium. I like that. You know, I think it's better because it puts your name on that building, you know.
Okay, you remember Candlestick and Lambeau? Let's give it, a good name, creative, not
right.
Commanders Field. That sounds like they're probably oh, this is our military base. We're in DC. We don't need another one of those. Seriously.
Yeah, it's stupid. I agree.
I think it's going to actually. I think it could start causing some problems, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
With some really fucked up people calling it Commanders Field.
Absolutely.
It sounds problematic, and I didn't even think about that at first. But leave it to Washington.
I know what you mean.
Leave it to Washington. So, let's hope, God forbid, nothing happens there.
Yeah.
Next game, Dallas again, 4:25 at home on Fox. This is probably the biggest game of the year. It's always these two Cowboys games because you at least have to win one of them. Now, for me, I'm calling it. I'm making it. We're going to sweep the Cowboys finally.
Mm-hmm.
Again, they're not as good as last year. We proved that we can beat them at home. We beat Dak. And again, we owe it to this fan base, owe it to ourselves. They're getting 2 losses. Okay. Mm-hmm. We can beat Dak Prescott. We know him so well now. I don't know where the adjustments have not come in. Whatever. Again, we have a great secondary. And again, we didn't get to play Dak in 22. Now, he did shred the defense. That game was on Christmas Eve. We still could have won that game with Gardner Minshew. I do think if Hurts played, we would have won. And again, the defense is really influenced by the quarterback a lot. You always hear stuff like, oh, he's starting. That mentality of, you wish it wasn't that way, but it's human nature. I think they would have just played harder and had more confidence if Hurts was playing. So yeah, I think they're going to snap it. We're going to sweep the Cowboys, and I have us at 12-4.
Yeah, I have it as a win. I have a splitting. The Cowboys are a rival, or well, I guess our biggest rival to some. I think ours is still the Giants because I think they're goofy as fuck. But yeah, I have it as a win.
Now, this will bring up a little side note. So again, us playing the Cowboys both on Sunday afternoon, 4:25, one on Fox CBS, which again, these games which you didn't mention, they are subject to flexing, but these two games are not going to be flexed because I think the reason that it's not on prime time, number one, the first time in 20 years since 2003, like what? That's a long ass time. These two teams have either played on Sunday night or Monday night.
Yeah. Well, I mean, something had to give. I guess I don't
Well, I
know.
think Fox and CBS paid so much money for these games. Like that's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
They both
I don't
wanted
know. I
it.
mean,
They
in
both
in
wanted it.
general, it doesn't. In
What's up?
general, it doesn't make sense. But let's look at our primetime games. They were going to put Kirk Cousins on against us over primetime because it always turns into a good game, I guess. And they put Jacksonville because of the coach. What else? They have the Commanders because they always beat us. Well, they don't beat us, but they play us tough for the
And
most
then
part.
the Packers in Brazil.
I think they just got sick and tired of us getting
And
our
then
asses
I
kicked.
think that Rams game that probably could have been the Cowboys game on Sunday
I
night.
think I think they just got sick and tired of us getting our asses kicked on Sunday Night Football in Dallas. That they just thought, let's take a break from it for 1 year because they wanted to replace the one Sunday Night Football game in Philly with Doug coming back. That's my thought process on it, and they didn't want another blowout in Dallas.
It's also going to be interesting to see us play them on CBS because I
Yeah.
can't remember that ever being a thing.
Mhm.
So that should be interesting with, I guess,
With Romo.
Tony
Yeah.
Romo and Jim Nantz calling that game. Last
Should be.
week of the season, and obviously this potentially could be that Saturday game. Obviously, probably won't be unless the Giants are somehow decent and in the hunt for the playoffs. It's the Giants, TBD for the time and everything. It's at home again. I think we're still going to need this game, with the 49ers being in the conference. They're going to have 13, 14, 12 wins. The Lions are obviously now a threat. I think they'll fall back a little bit, but not
Yeah.
much. Maybe like one less win. So we're still going to need this game. And I think we're going to get it 13-4.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why they're saying time TBD. Everyone knows it's going to be a 1 o'clock game. So
Could be
easy win.
425 like last
Yeah,
year.
yeah, easy sweep of the New York Giants. The only reason why we didn't sweep them last year is because we sucked. It's an easy sweep of the New York Giants. Their fans will be delusional once again. They'll have a top 5 pick, still no quarterback, and losers will always lose, and that's that.
All right. So at the end of the year, we both have this team going 13-4. This would be an outstanding season. Obviously, it would be an improvement from last year. Probably the record that we should have finished with last year. And I'm going to obviously save this. I want to review the games that we picked them to lose. So mine was Saints first. Yours was Packers. Then we both have them losing to the Bengals. You have them losing to the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
I have them losing to the Rams. We both have the Ravens, right?
No, I have the Ravens as a loss.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going through the losses right now.
Yeah.
All right, so we both have the Ravens. I have my 4 losses, and then you said another loss was you have Packers?
I had it as the Packers. Yep.
Oh, and Cincy.
Cincy, Packers, Dallas, and Ravens.
Wait, I'm confused because I have Saints, Bengals, LA, and Baltimore.
As
Okay.
losses.
Yeah, I think that's right. And then you have Packers, Dallas, Baltimore, Cincy. Cool.
And there's one last thing that we're gonna run by. It's gonna take 30 seconds. How do you feel about the Jets having the most primetime games in the league?
What about the Falcons? I think that's weird too.
Weird, right?
It's dicey. It really is, with Aaron Rodgers again being at his age, coming off is it an ACL or
No, it's
Achilles?
Achilles.
Achilles, which is even worse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't imagine that happening again. I don't know why they have the most. I mean, obviously, if he's playing, there's a ton of intrigue there. But yeah, they're trying to overhype this team. Obviously, it's always the Jets. The Chargers are a media darling, which I think I always like the Chargers. They should have a good year with Jim Harbaugh and Justin
Yep.
Herbert. That should be exciting. But yeah, the Falcons and Jets, I don't know. They were right with the Lions last year. They did predict they were going to be good. I don't think they had 6 primetime games.
Yeah.
They gave Houston a lot. I think that's deserved. I think that's going to be obviously exciting with their great young quarterback. And D'Amico Ryans, I think, is a great head coach. Kind of low-key jealous that he's not our head coach. But yeah, that's just too much. We don't need to see the Jets on Monday night on Black Friday. I'm tired of Bills Jets and them getting blown out. Dolphins, like, I don't. And also, what about? I know I want to talk about the schedule more next week when we have a full show. The Thanksgiving Day games, like, why are they like cupcake games for the Cowboys and Lions?
Because it sets them up well, and a lot of people like the Cowboys and the Lions. Let's face it, the Lions never used to win on Thanksgiving. There was always that one game they'd throw in there at 12 p.m. so everyone could start cooking and just have something on. No one's going to really be invested into it. So
those games have been boring for sure.
Yeah.
But like, you have all these people watching. Why not make it a great competitive game? Is it just meant to be background noise? And there's still people are still going to watch no matter what, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the Lions game is always background noise. But now that they have a really good wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and they have a good core together with Jameson Williams too. Don't forget about him. I think they're going to be dynamic next year. I think they're going to be something to watch. So those two games I think they'll be good games.
What? I really Dallas, New York is going to be a good game.
Oh, no, absolutely not. I forgot they were playing the Giants on Thanksgiving. Absolutely not. What am I thinking?
Yeah, that's awful. And I know the night game is better. I can't exactly remember it right now. It might be Houston. No, Houston, Baltimore is on Christmas. But yeah, we're going to do a complete more schedule rundown. There is a lot more things to talk about, looking at games across the league. I also obviously want to look at the division games, compare them to our schedule, see how their bye weeks and their road games stack up. Now, I think we would both have the Eagles winning the division at 13-4, right? Yeah. Obviously, there hasn't been a back-to-back division winner somehow since 03-04, which is just insane. It really is. And the division, it's been competitive with us and the Giants obviously winning, but then Washington wins when randomly all the other teams suck or the quarterback gets hurt. Yep. It's been a weird dynamic. Seeding. Will they get the number 1 seed?
No.
It's really hard to tell. I think we should go over the 49ers schedule next week too.
Yes.
And determine that because
the Eagles are going to get the number 2 or 3.
And again, we don't like that they don't get a bye.
I hate it. I agree, but you only have one team that's going to be the best team in the regular season. And until someone until someone proves them otherwise, I got to give it to the 49ers.
Their defense is great. It really, really is. And Deebo Samuel,
Brandon Ayuk, Brock Purdy.
Didn't they lose a wide receiver though?
Yes. Who? I don't know. Did they?
We are not remembering. I mean, there's so much to remember right now with the schedule coming out. I feel like our brains are a little mumbled and fried. But
not like it really matters because they still have Kittle. I mean, they're dynamic.
I think it only matters about Christian McCaffrey. We didn't even mention him.
If he gets hurt, we have a shot. But that's about it.
Possibly.
Yeah. But all right. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode schedule prediction rundown. Next week, obviously, we're going to run down more of the league schedule in total and see who could get the number 1 seeds across both leagues, AFC and NFC. Thank you, Chop Lad, for tuning in. And yeah, we'll be back at our normal time. Well, no, actually, we won't next week because on Friday, I forgot it was Memorial Day weekend. I had something planned. So we're going to be doing the show on Thursday next week. So next week, it's going to be Thursday. And then after that, unless something changes, it's always going to be Fridays at 2 o'clock.
Which with us, something always changes.
It always changes. Like we'll get it down. We'll get it down.
We're adaptable, which I think is a great thing to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this schedule prediction breakdown. Yeah, join us next week, Thursday at 2 o'clock, and we'll be back. With that said, go Birds, and we are out.